I think you've got the agenda, so are there any questions on the agenda? Anybody have questions? Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Anything, because people are too long.
Motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? No. Okay, we did that. That's good. We will have at our next meeting, and I don't know when that will be, but we will have 2 sets of notes to approve, tonight's notes and last week's notes. And I guess, Eric, if you want to introduce the topic.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you SAC members for the final set of zoning applications. 13 of 15 of you submitted your answers and your opinions. So thank you all for that. It's really helped make this process go a lot easier. And because of that, of the 30 applications to go through tonight, only 8 did not have consensus. Now that means you guys can still pull out and talk about whatever you want, but just to help with the process, if you guys do want to kind of consent agenda some items together, there were quite a few to go through. But we can talk about more in a minute. Anne, if you want to open up for public comment.
That's right. We're doing public comment at the beginning of the meeting, just for those who saw it popping in the back. So if somebody would like to speak. Linda?
Yes. So I think most of you probably know this development, but I thought I would at least bring a big picture of it for those who are not fairly aware of it or don't go there often. So, good evening. My name is Linda Shewitt, and I have 2 people here who have been involved in this development for ever since it started. That's Michael Albo and Christine Donald.
Linda, do you have an address?
Pardon me?
Do you have an address? I'm pinch hitting tonight to help Eric with notes.
Sure. 745.
Okay.
Harbor Road.
Okay.
Brownsville. One of the projects.
Oh, yeah, your project address.
Okay, here we are. Like I said, my name's Linda Shewitt. I'm with 2 people who are well versed in this particular shopping center. And we are here to make a short presentation relating to 129 Ritchie Highway in the hopes that y'all will do a reconsideration of the. I have a little saying, and I already talked to them. I have one little thing I have to get off my chest right away. And it has to do with the fact that at the last meeting, there was this comment that said, if there hadn't been a presentation attached, and that I believe to be largely, if not totally baloney, I would have approved without comment. And so, so basically we're calling the attachment to our application baloney. So just for a minute, because I know this is pretty much irrelevant, as you know, some of you know, I'm a lawyer. I graduated cum laude from the University of Maryland School of Law. I went out and worked in a great big law firm in Baltimore, and then came down to Annapolis, and eventually Janet Owens appointed me as county attorney for the county. I didn't know her, and she didn't know me. She appointed me based on recommendations from judges and lawyers. I was appointed a couple of years ago as the lawyer for the county council, and I did that for several years. And my peers give me the highest rating for legal ability and ethical standards. I prepared the attachment and for the request for zoning, and to the best of my knowledge, it is completely factual and accurate. If you think there's anything wrong with it, you can explain to me what you think baloney is. Not known for creating likely. So to get to the actual point of this, the rezoning of 129 Ritchie Highway from R1 to C3 is consistent with the general development plan, the GDP. Plan doesn't just allow it, the plan actually encourages commercial in particular areas. Limited commercial, not big commercial, which this lot is. This lot's only 2 acres long, or big, not big, so it's exact, and it's right next to the shopping center, so it's exactly what the plan expected to do. And I'm sure you all know this, that planning and zoning would have never recommended C3 for this particular property if it didn't think it was in accordance with the plan. And OPZ has significant experience in land use planning. So we respectfully ask you to follow and vote in favor of the GDP recommendation and the OPZ recommendation. That's one reason. Second reason is that the rezoning of this particular parcel from R1 to C3 is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. There are at least, and I drove it and took pictures, all the way up and down Ritchie Highway. It didn't even go south, I just went north. There were 12 commercial establishments within 1 mile of this particular property. And there are lots of pictures of those businesses in the attachment, so I would imagine you know what I'm talking about. For some reason I'm getting out of breath. So I think the most persuasive argument for rezoning this property is plain old common sense. I have a few pictures of the house that have that. I have a few pictures of the house that's been there for umpty years. And the first picture shows a mattress to the right of the house sitting out on the property and a bunch of wire. The wire looks like it's probably either a dog kennel or something having to do with the mattress. Did anybody see that, or do you want to see more? Pardon me? Yeah, I just need to be sure that I get it.
Is this a current picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Relatively, yes. In the last couple months.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
The second picture shows 2 refrigerators out on the property, as well as some tires and other debris. And so let's pass that around. Then there's one picture of the interior. The interior is unbelievable, but I only brought one picture. The third picture shows an area in the interior of the house where there's a hole in the ceiling and wires are coming down through the ceiling into the house itself. Anybody who looks at this property will likely reject the idea of building a home there. It's just not made for a home. Why? Because the property runs along about 1/2 of the shopping center. It's the same as the. Yes, that would be great. Oops. Did I keep going? Okay, here, that's right. This is the same as the zoning map that's been seen before. I'm sure it's in the application. So why would you not want to live here? Well, because you've got C3 around here, all the way down to the bottom, all the way over here, this piece of R1. And then you have this tiny little piece of, well, it's not shown well here, but there's a tiny little lot right next door that is R1, but it's like that much of it only goes up against this. The rest of it is, and I don't even know, that parcel is so small, I'm not even so sure of what you can do. It's so narrow and tiny. Oh, and this is a part of the shopping center that has not yet been fully developed. There's some parking spots there, I think. And that is right also up against here. So there's really no place in here where you can put a house and have it not be up against the shopping center. It's right there. And the fact that it will be fully developed at some point makes it even more undesirable to put a house there. It's just not the right place. So I'd ask all of you, would you like to build this particular lot and build a house there? I wouldn't, and I would only guess that you wouldn't either.
Show us on that, just draw a rectangle where that.
The lot we're talking about. Yeah, hold on a second.
Yes.
Not too much stuff. It's this right here. That's the house.
Okay, how big is it?
So like acre.
2 acres.
2 acres.
Okay.
It's not. So, there's one other,
I just have a question.
sure,
When you referenced your notes about the saying from last meeting, since we didn't have minutes out, for
I
last
I
meeting.
didn't mean the minutes, it was what showed up on the screen.
Okay, so I'm just referencing. So you listened to what we ended up voting for,
I did,
for that set of parcels. That's what you're asking us to reconsider?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, that's why I'm here.
The last meeting being Wednesday of last week.
Oh, Wednesday.
Yeah,
Oh,
we had meetings last Wednesday and we voted on a totally different set of things for that property and other surrounding properties. So I'm just trying to
Voted on
understand.
it again?
I think that,
No,
no.
we hadn't voted on
Two
it.
meetings ago for us.
Monday meeting.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant the last Monday meeting.
Last Wednesday, we voted on that property.
Has it changed from?
Previous Wednesday, we did the R22.
It was Wednesday because I was here.
It was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday when you voted, when there was a vote on this,
Yes.
was there agenda or a notice of that?
Yep.
What was the end result of the vote?
R22.
22.
R22 for the R1 property?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're talking about.
We are, we're talking.
We are.
Yes, we love the road. There's
The ones north of that, I
And
know.
that one was included in. That was included in that whole, up to that big square up there.
Well, was there notice of this meeting? Because I didn't get it. That's one thing. Number two, R22 on 2 acres,
Well, plus 4 other lots,
pardon me?
plus 4 additional lots in the area.
Oh, you mean the one like
Up Ritchie Highway, north of Ritchie.
going
north of
north to
Ritchie.
the R1?
Yes. So where the zoned SB is, where the zone R1 is, I think there's something else from there. It was 4 or 5 different total lots going that direction.
Where the others didn't have.
That's not our zone.
The SAC just,
I'm not-
the SAC just provided a recommendation as a whole in that whole area for R22.
Well, I'm asking you to reconsider. I had one other thing to say that really wasn't talked about the first time around, and that is that there have been a number of comments in Region 4 about a desire to have more sidewalks and more bike lanes. And if this property is developed under C3, an extension of the sidewalk and the bike lane will be required, as it was required when the shopping center came into being. On the other hand, if the property is developed with a single family dwelling, there will be no extension of sidewalk or bike lane. I called the state, they don't require an extension of the bike lane if it's a single family home. And the county doesn't require sidewalks because they don't have any, at the moment, they don't have any authority to require side bike lanes. So I haven't had a chance to look at all of the parcels that you're bringing in to R22, but R22 is, as you know, really intense use. And I just think that it's better to bring this in along with the shopping center than it is otherwise. So I have 5 really good reasons why this property should be rezoned as C3. They are because OPZ recommended C3. C3 is encouraged by the development, the GDP, because there's a significant amount of commercial within 1 mile, because the property is not suitable for single family homes or maybe really most residential uses. And because the rezoning includes extension. So I watched all of the staff meetings by Zoom. And I know that all of you have put so much time and effort into this process. And I thank you, and I hope the county enjoys the process. Thank you. And so we are happy to respond to any questions that you may have. I'm really taken aback by the R22. Maybe we have, yeah.
For the bike lanes, what's the requirement for 22?
Yep. What's that?
I was wondering about the bike lanes. Kind of now.
I would guess, and I don't really know. I need to look it up. They're required because it's residential.
Well, I
New
thought because,
development.
I think for something that major, they would have to. I think for something that large, that size, they'd have to
Site
upgrade
plan prior.
the road and the frontage.
That's not what the state told me.
Yeah.
So state never requires that kind of stuff in connection with residential. And we didn't talk about R22 in particular because I didn't know that had already been voted on.
It's been several years since I worked at State Highway, but it's not, when State Highway is putting in bike lanes, it's not about what's adjacent because most of them are the higher speed roadways. It's about what that section of the road is. It doesn't matter what they're building next to it. If it's they're building sidewalks, if there's an existing bike lane, they're trying to continue them or connect them. So their answer in that there have no requirements because it's residential may be true. Yes, State Highway may be true, but that doesn't mean that they don't have other homes with land to provide bike lanes.
One thing too about all this, as we keep in mind, this is all gonna be available for public review and comment. So at the end, anticipated at the end of July, you can see the draft, the SAC recommendations, staff recommendations, and provide comments on this as well.
With the still ability to at least consider.
Yeah, if you can make that comment and make that well known, that, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you
Could I-
have any questions?
Can I just ask, is it possible that we could spend 5 minutes on this at some point this evening?
If the SAC wants to do that, they can, absolutely.
To suggest that we do C3 on that 2-acre property and to make it conform to what is already there. But let's table it for now so we can move on.
Is there anybody else who wants to talk? Yeah, we got not a lot of
I
time.
know, I don't want to.
Yeah, my name's Larry Thurston. Hopefully, we can give you guys, get some pictures out of our property. But what we're trying to do, we have our 5 properties, we'll make where you got it. And 81 did a couple properties there that were joined by C4, were directly across. You'll see in the flyer they pass it from the car lot, car wash. That's covered. Storage area at the end of the street, strip mall to both ends of the street, daycare center. So it's pretty much pretty much everything is, and where I'm touching is actually. Yeah, we're trying to create a storage lot, basically for RVs, boats and stuff from surrounding areas like the neighborhoods, like. And I feel like we're joining all the C4 properties, and we're not trying to ask for something that we're trying to create take a neighborhood and my house is in the middle of it. And try to make it a C4. We're directly across from the car lot. And behind that car lot is actually a big storage yard, the other construction company behind that is actually C4 also. And you can see the car wash and all that. But that's what we're trying to do. We're just and proceed for something that's compatible to the area, not going to create traffic problems. I think that not the best area to put homes. You got animals and pets and kids. You know, it's not a sidewalk district. We do have water and sewer, and I've been in the area since 1957, so I know the area very well. If any questions or whatever, bad, I used to catch the bus right on that same road. So, okay, that's why.
And I also wanted to mention too, you'll see that there's next door to this property here, residential property, and we also own the 2 of these as well. So it's not, we're not trying to throw something in the middle. If you guys think it's a recommendation to make all of them, it's some type of commercial or C4, that's what we're shooting for. That's recommended as well, because we own these as well too.
Anybody else? Okay, back to the agenda.
Thanks, Ann. Just so as a reminder, anticipated late July, the public is going to be able to provide comments, review everything the SAC has recommended, as well as staff recommendations as well. More information will be provided soon, but again, end of July is the anticipated timeline for public review of all of this good stuff that the SAC has discussed. So here is a slide that shows all the applications that you guys click through on your final survey. The ones highlighted in the yellow or orangey yellow, whatever you want to call it, those are the ones that, according to SurveyMonkey, have consensus. So ones that do not have consensus are Broadneck 13, 14, 15, the old Mill Bottom Road, and 161 Ferguson Road. Pasadena 20 through 23, the Ember Drive, and then a couple properties along B&A Boulevard. And then finally, Severna Park 8, which is 849 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard and 45 Smith Road. Oh, and the one, Pasadena 23, the Waterford Road. As well as we do have the one carryover from last meeting to discuss tonight, which is close to the Severna Park 8.
Which way, where do you want to start?
That's up to the SAC. So we could do something similar as last meeting, have a motion for consensus or discuss however you guys would like.
We just have.
Sure.
One of the pockets like you had at the last Monday meeting.
So the slide, each slide is broken down. It has the breakdown of how the SAC voted. So, but no, I don't have the packet. The orange highlighted is when the SAC, when they reviewed it, had consensus already. So the Survey Monkey,
Based on the stuff.
based on the staff recommendation. Thank you. Yes.
All right, so we start with the first one that doesn't have consensus.
Well, we have to vote on, we technically have to vote on every single one of
Okay,
these.
oh,
So
How do you guys vote on them? They won't get you all signed.
they've already been, so the ones that have consensus have already been reviewed by staff and the SAC. Staff provided a recommendation. The SAC, according to the Survey Monkey, has agreed with the staff's recommendation. In the meeting minutes that will come out, you can see the breakdown of everything, as well as in July, you can see the recommendations based on the SAC and staff. Yeah, if they go with the consensus for Pasadena 6, it won't be discussed.
I'd like to make a motion that we discuss those applications that we did not have.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
One question. Are there some that the county has recommended denial of the application, and some where the county recommended approval of the application and differentiated? Ensure.
So each application has a staff recommendation, and the SAC, with the ones that consensus, have agreed with the staff recommendation.
Either side, different day.
It could be the same as the applicant, or it could be different than applicant. Yeah. So yeah, but again, public comment has closed, and there's a discussion for the motion on table. Again, public review will be available in July for this.
Seconded the motion.
Percentage on the Hogneck Road. Of approval.
It was about 70%.
Oh, because the 2 yeses count.
Correct.
Wouldn't have reached it if you didn't have yes with the time permits. There's a new radial that we had to start.
If that yes was just a yes, it would still count as towards the yes. It just,
Right, but if we didn't have yes with the time permits, it's us, we were previously in previous sentences.
it maybe. It depends on that.
We did have it last time, though.
He's saying,
If that, it depends on the respondent. If the respondent felt like they need to talk about it, then they may have selected no, but they've also may have selected yes, if that was an option too. So, but as of this stands, it is about 70% for the staff recommendation. So there was a motion and a second, and there are no discussions occurring.
Is there a way we can get that screen so we can see the OPC? That'd be good. Oh,
So that was,
Call for the question.
Now, so do we call for any more discussion?
Is there ready for a vote?
Okay. All in favor?
Well, I do a
I'm
roll
sorry.
call.
Oh, that's right, roll call.
George, or Bo, sorry. Emma,
Aye.
Lauren is not here. Ann?
Aye.
And Melissa? Kevin? Tom?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael? Shayla? Walter?
No.
Holly? Is not here. John Spencer is not here. Amy?
Aye.
Lori?
No.
The vote is 10-2. The ayes have it. So then the only ones to be discussed, as was just voted on, the only ones left to be discussed are Broadneck 13 through 15, Pasadena 20 through 23, Severna Park 8, and then Severna Park, I think 10 from last meeting. So to start with Severna or Broadneck 13. So this right here is the 212 Old Bottom Mill Drive, Old Mill Bottom Road. And in the area is also 208 Old Mill Bottom Road, and then the 161 Ferguson Road. 161 is this big parcel down here. Here's 208, and here's 212. And I'll pull up GeoCortex, and we can.
Which is 161, isn't it?
It's
Oh, I see
the
the big-
big, yeah.
okay.
So this is 161.
We got the letter.
Correct. Yeah, and so this afternoon, I forwarded you all a letter of support from a neighboring property for 161 rezone. Is there any thoughts, questions?
Eric, can you give us county's thoughts on this should be continued as RLD?
Sure. So one thing that we did, we reached out for some for some commercial data, like we did similarly to the Skidmore Drive properties, right? And what we were told was, in this area, there are currently 0 vacant commercial properties. There are 3 auto dealerships, 1 auto repair shop, a gas station, and a restaurant, which are all occupied. Just north of 50. It's almost the same, a very low vacancy rate. The area is made up of a mixture of commercial businesses, including an occupied assisted living center, elements at Mill Creek subdivision currently under construction, 2 more auto dealerships, a hotel, a gas station, occupied medical office complex, an animal hospital, and storage facility. One other thing we were told is historically the area has experienced several years of persistent blight and decline, especially after the upgrades to Route 50 and the removal of signal road crossings in the early 1990s. Recent years have shown a consistently low vacancy rate among commercial properties.
So what, yeah, I was gonna say, what you just described sounds more like what's further down.
Oh, no, it was over
No.
cross with stoplights.
Yeah.
1991, the overpass got opened by the state. Yeah, on the bottom, just there and came
those things are taken more into consideration with the idea of the commercial. The commercial is going to include the fact that, and also including what's about to happen with the Bay Bridge revamping, where I can't see residential or the RD, still existing in this capacity that it is now. So it makes sense to move forward with the commercial.
Yeah, are you talking about the follow-up letter that we received?
Well, not even the follow-up, but the one from the legal team. That one, yes, that one, yep.
It's like 17.
Yeah, 17 pages. I sat down and read through and all the comments they had to say about everything they've heard us say at every single
I
meeting.
mean, I feel bad for the homeowners. Do we need more parking on it?
I don't think
More
it's-
traffic in that area.
I-
That's my feeling is it's bumper to bumper there.
And-
So one person coming in and out of their house doesn't create that much traffic.
Yeah.
Are you gotta speak up a little bit.
Sorry, no, it's back there.
And I hear what you're saying. I just feel like commercial makes way for that versus leaving a residence there.
You know, I'm inclined at this point to agree with Shayla, after reading all of their supplementary, all of the
Mhm.
follow-up to, especially about the noise complaints. I remember my primary reason, I think, for not wanting to do C4 was just my general, distaste for overdevelopment. But it feels like it's almost a moot point for this area because there's already the noise going on because they mentioned that there's the gun range, there's the
gun range was there when they bought the house, so it's not like that's new. I mean, I'm just saying that, so.
I'm just saying that combined with the traffic, I'm just bringing up what they mentioned. I'm not saying that my mind is completely changed. I just think we should take more into consideration. They took the time to write this 17-page document about it.
Steve?
Yeah, and I commend what they did here. I mean, they really did a superb job outlining a lot of arguments that maybe had not been completely discussed last time. That being said, it's just like any document. This is very pro going commercial. And so if you start going through some of the points, traffic in there is previously discussed. If you take a look at that approach in there right now with traffic that comes off of Route 50, it's a very short approach before you end up having to make a turn on the Baytail. And the conflict that would exist there with that existing entry point into the property. Imagine that with commercial and a lot more traffic going through there. But if I could, that property was purchased in 2011. So the house was built in 2007. This isn't exactly like the last property that we were talking about at 129 Richard Island. It's a large house. And unlike some of the other properties that run along the frontage road on 50 where noise is an issue, those people had to build berms in order to minimize the decibels of noise down to at least 65 or so. This particular home rests at the bottom of a fairly steep slope. And not only that, in between that is all of the MDOT property that is there in the turnoff start from Route 50. There's a substantially different buffer on noise that naturally exists within that property. Some of the issues that have been raised, like for instance, congestion of traffic from the nearby businesses that sometimes interfere with the owner's property. I drive by the road all the time. I don't know, because there's not enough data in here on how many times they've experienced it, but I have yet to see a situation where traffic from those commercial businesses actually were blocking the entrance or even using any portion of the roadway in front of that property. If you change this to commercial, it's not going to solve that problem that exists right now with all of that traffic. And not only that, there's another piece of MDOT property that, or MHA or whoever, that is in between 161 Ferguson and the Infinity dealership. You know, MDOT has been looking to offload properties around that are right now being put on. My concern is, again, pretty commercial, because I can see that once this goes commercial, then MDOT is more interested now in selling that property because it can be sold as commercial property. I'm much more inclined looking further down the street to where the Hot and Blue or whatever it is. Those two properties that are right on the road, they're right in the middle of the commercial area, potentially making those commercial. But again, that's a terrible intersection down there. And adding more traffic onto Old Bottom Road.
Be able to fix it, but the traffic, it was backed up all the way back to that corner in the last 2 weekends with the bridge traffic, and there was an accident yesterday, or I forget which day, Saturday maybe. So it's bumper to bumper from St. Martin's all the way to Red Hot and Blue sometimes. I don't see adding commercial property without doing some major change.
So
Doesn't finish. Thank you. One question. Does anyone know if the Bay Bridge expansion were to go through here, whether those properties would even exist anymore? Is it something that would, they would?
The Bay Bridge of State Highway in particular already owns the access roads in that area. They already own, for instance, we were talking about Jamal 50 Shopping Center. They already state roads, Whitehall, Skidmore, East College Parkway, Ferguson right there is part of, all of that is part of State Highway. They already own all that. They have the space on either side to do so.
Without impacting these properties.
That big swamp in the center, I mean, they would redesign that, I imagine, but there's a lot of space in there.
but
But even more so than, oh, good.
now, one of the questions though, you've got the SHA or MDOT property that is on the 161 Ferguson side. There's also at least one or maybe two other similar type properties, larger parts that are on the other side. So the question is the highway administration going to need those parcels in the future, to help out with bridge expansion?
Don't know.
I was just wondering, were there any staff insights, based on the points they raised in that letter, like any insights that maybe you guys could provide on, or no? I'm just asking.
So this, as you noticed, there wasn't a staff recommendation for these properties. This is something we wanted to bring to the SAC and see what you guys thought this area should look like in the foreseeable future. Because I think there could be an argument either way.
Which is what you've said, and that's what staff has said. We're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like, I think the car dealership ended since, I don't know if it was before they bought the property or what, but I just feel like because that expanded, that impacts their property, so then we should just make that C4, which will then impact the next one down the road. It's like, when do you stop that? Like, I don't know.
I just, from my perspective, we're talking about traffic. And how there's a lot of traffic that, I grew up here, I know the area. There is a lot of traffic on the weekends. To me, I'd rather have commercial there because if someone's gonna go to a commercial establishment, there's a choice. So from a traffic perspective, they know there's traffic there, they're not as likely to influence it, where from like a life safety standpoint, why would you want to put a house there? Because if there is an emergency, it's harder to get there. Just in terms of traffic alone, I just don't see traffic on the weekend being a reason why you wouldn't want commercial in this area. I just don't see it upticking traffic or impacting it to a point where it's gonna change the game, so to speak. Like maybe during the week, you might have a little bit more, potentially, depends on what the use is. 161 were to be a parking lot, and you're not gonna see an increase in traffic from that. I just don't think traffic is,
What about environmental concerns, just as
yeah.
we're looking at all that green space?
So that would be taken into consideration, as they pointed out, with the commercial review. They can't just go in and those things are taken into consideration.
Consideration, but you still are losing a lot of.
We do lose some green space.
Easement on that already.
There is.
Yeah, so it's ready.
Yep.
It's ready, protected.
There's an easement, and I also look at allowing that to go commercial helps alleviate not just for the homeowners, but I'm thinking about making better use of the commercial space that already exists. It gives the possibility of expansions in a more environmentally friendly and safer way, where when traffic backs up, as someone who has to go over to that Infinity dealership, who maybe, I know you don't want a parking lot, but giving those cars a space to go that's not on the both sides of the road, jamming that space up, making it very unsafe to get in and get out for servicing and things like that. So I look at it as an opportunity to re-envision that whole space, which right now looks like a bunch of garages and cars on top of each other.
Dealership, not the house, though.
Yeah, but I don't think they're worried about necessarily saving the house based on how I'm reading it.
Right, I mean, they
Well, they
might put a
wouldn't be
parking lot
because it's
there.
not their, they
Mhm.
don't want the house.
Mhm.
Well, the tough one. Any other comments?
The applicant request, is it C3 or C4?
C4. And I you will make one. I don't know what the average dealer country on in that area. We're all saying it's just, but I don't know. I do know further down where Taco Bell is built, that section of Skidmore has an average daily traffic of 7,000.
However, it hasn't been submitted to no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cleared that up in the video.
Okay, so there's a commercial property that is zoned C2. So if that property was to become a fast food restaurant. My question always is, we do each of the traffic studies incrementally. Every single time we get a new development, there's a traffic study just done for that. And so the question is, what is the capacity of that small 2-lane road right now? You know that you can't increase it down in that area. There's not enough right of ways for them to be able to do it. And that again is the same thing that I raised here in this. I don't know the actual traffic. What is the capacity in that area? Because just like that place I just described, there is no room to increase the right of way in that area.
Isn't that traffic already overwhelming the neighborhood every weekend anyway? I don't,
I don't know the facts,
yeah, okay.
but I do know from regularly going in that area, that
Well,
it is a heavily trafficked.
Certainly from May to September. Right?
So when you consider what could go there with C4, what's the capacity that road can actually handle? That won't be answered until each one of those individual businesses turn in their traffic studies.
Make a comment. So businesses like traffic, right? You locate your business and look on the street because of the traffic. So I think there's a perception there, like misconception that the business is going to bring more traffic than already exists. Yeah, maybe bring a little bit more, but I don't know that it's a significant. The increase is going to be significantly more than what is now. That's why we want to business on a high traffic area because there's a lot of cars already going by that can support that business. I don't know that making this commercial is going to increase the traffic significantly on this road.
Would it be, if it won't be helpful, it's totally fine. I won't be offended. But would it be helpful if we decided on the 208 and 212 properties separately from the 161? Just because there's already been a comment made about potentially being more okay with just to make it easier.
Need to do these separately. I wouldn't lump them into one.
221 and
Motion to do that.
208, 212.
For these two right up here.
Promotion that we vote that 208 and 212 be C4.
Second. Is there a second? Oh, here it is. Okay, so moved and seconded that those two lots. Did somebody say that
208, which one?
212.
208 and 212.
2A and 2? Well,
Allow where the circle is, and the one right to the left.
2A and 212. Okay. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
I don't think discussion will be helpful at this point.
All right.
Well, my question is why 4? Okay.
The applicant for 212 requested, or actually 212, it looks like requested C1, but then 208 requested C3 or C4.
So why didn't we get a teacher for that?
Well, I mean, if we have to, the motion for it, we could amend the motion or we can deny them.
Said 208 requested C4.
You got 200 and 206 are C1,
C3 or C4.
right? Yeah, the ones on the corner are C1.
We did have a request to speak up.
The 200 and 206 are zone C1.
I'm fine amending it. I thought that they asked for C4, so that's what we're voting for.
Yeah, they were all grouped together.
Yeah.
Make sure I got my facts straight. So 208 requested. And 212,
C1.
That would be a possible expansion of Red House.
And the motion to go C1.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll amend the motion to go to C1 instead of C4.
For both properties.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, C1's right next to it. Yes.
Okay, any discussion? If you're right, we can go in circle.
Both properties.
All in favor of C1 for both of the lots that we've seen on the map?
Well, I'm gonna do a roll call.
Oh,
So,
that's right. We have to do
we'll start with you, Ann,
that. Yes,
Michael, Amy, Bo, Emma,
Yes.
Lauren is not here. We'll check. Lori, Melissa, Kevin, Tom, Steve,
Yes.
Shayla,
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Holly is not here and John Spencer's not here. The motion passes 11-1. $161 is, yes, still needs to be discussed.
What was the request on that one?
Or all three, is that right? Which is consistent.
Yeah, to be clear, OPZ recommendation in May was RLD before they came in with the rezoning application.
Correct. But on the draft map, OPZ had a staff recommendation of RLD, but after the application came in, it's very similar to 208 and 212 we just discussed. We didn't provide a recommendation for you all because we could see this area going either way.
I know I'm contradicting myself, but I can think both ways. My other concern with 161 now is, look, would be right in the middle of a bunch of RLD. And that just doesn't seem like it would.
But also abutting the highway.
Where-
Like circulating roads for the highway. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know,
Is literally on the exit.
highway rate, that's.
And just to be clear, I think that the properties in the island are owned by SHA, so they might not come in for a rezoning application. They don't really care. The property to the west of 161 is owned by the state, so they may not care. And the property owner at 211 just may not have a stake in the game at this point, so to speak. I mean, to some degree, they are in an island, but that island might not exist in reality.
And as a reminder, the SAC can provide a widespread recommendation as well, like you guys have done similarly last week for multiple properties, even if they applied or not.
it just seems to me that it's really, maybe it has a traffic issue, but the commercial is much closer to the two we just dealt with. And this one is an island. And it's big. How many acres?
So I'll move that we 161 and 130, the SHA parcel, just to make it a contiguous commercial zone. I would move to make both parcels C4.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded.
Hold on, so now we're saying
just that, so you don't
161
have
and
a
130.
island, yeah.
130 is the state property.
You're concerned about rezoning state properties.
I mean, you could fill out by rezoning to that. Incentivize to, my opinion, sell it for higher price. But then otherwise, we don't. Again, we don't know what. they're gonna
Right,
use.
right. There are a lot of unknowns and all that.
It's a beautiful wooded area.
Just think. It's like we said with other village centers or whatever, easy to do the rezoning. It comes without any price tag for infrastructure in that area. You can't get right now in Baydale where there is a trail and sidewalks to this commercial area. They won't be able to put sidewalks along Old Mill Bottom Road. For anybody to get and I'm not, I said before, it's not that I'm a bike guy. It's just an vision for if you're gonna designate such a large area as commercial, what do you want the end product to look like? And so there are plenty of limitations for being able to do anything other than allow businesses and generate traffic, more traffic to this area. And I agree with Mike when he says, we're not really generating more traffic. The Highway 50 is designed to move traffic. Baydale is designed to move traffic. What we're doing is we're changing the destinations for people. People who otherwise might not come off of 50. Not only will come potentially this businesses, but as we continue to look further down the road at other places right now that could also be rezoned commercial, like we just recently did further down, that sometime in the future, that whole stretch will look like nothing but billboards and commercial. And they will all have to go on those two very small frontage roads that are on either side. They can't be expanded. So I
Over 50. It's that sidewalk. They do. One side. Where most of the people live, they couldn't walk there and car dealership, so not gonna be very useful for the local community.
We want to vote on this?
There was a motion and a second, yeah.
Okay, we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of, oh, we gotta keep, I keep forgetting.
No worries.
Okay.
John's not here. Ollie's not here. Walter? Shayla?
Sorry, just to confirm, we're voting for C4 for 161 and 130.
Correct.
Yes.
Steve?
No.
That's a no. Okay. Tom?
No.
Kevin?
Yes.
Melissa?
No.
Lori?
No.
Lauren is not here. Emma?
No.
Bo? That's a no. Amy?
No.
Michael?
Aye.
Ann?
No,
The no's, it does not pass.
Would proposing a lower level of commercial be helpful at all, like C1, especially since we just decided C1 for the upper field?
Or you guys can vote on it.
I'm just throwing out options.
RLD, it was another option that we had when they applied. Oh, it's RLD now, okay. But then we don't have to do anything.
I mean, if you guys want to make the recommendation for RLD, you absolutely can, so. Because right now, the property essentially doesn't really have a recommendation.
Okay, anybody want to make a recommendation?
The motion is second for RLD.
You people are moving very fast. I don't do this very often.
You guys wanted us to get better at this.
I know,
You told us
you
to get
were
more
rolling.
efficient.
So now we can call them.
Correct. So motion is second for RLD. Any discussion? Roll call. Ann,
Keep it RLD.
RLD. Michael. Amy. Bo. Emma.
Abstain.
Lauren's not here. Lori. Melissa. Kevin. Tom. Steve.
Yeah.
Shayla.
Yes.
Walter. Holly is not here and neither is John. That's 1, 2, 3. I know, I don't have Jesse's fancy stuff. Motion passes. Motion passes. So,
What are the numbers? I
uh,
didn't get all
it
that.
was 9, I have actually, 9 in favor of the motion, 3 against. Okay, so then moving on to the next set is the Ember Drive properties, Pasadena 20 through 23. Pasadena 20, Pasadena 21, Pasadena 22, 23. It's the 201 Ember Drive, followed by the B&A Boulevard properties and Waterford Road property. And I'll pull this up. Yeah.
8253, 8257.
Yes, and then 8270 Waterford Road.
I was waiting when you see that. Couldn't listen and wait.
So, staff initially, just for clarification, for the 201 Ember Drive, staff initially and presented to you guys through SurveyMonkey, a W-2 recommendation, but after some conversations about environmental, protection and hearing things from the public about environmental protection, staff has actually, changed the recommendation to keep the property R1 for 201 Ember Drive. And I'll pull this up in the geocortex in a moment.
What were the environmental concerns?
Just with the stream there and leading into, there's a park.
Lake Waterford's basically been dead with water and the county has issued like no use, for the last several summers. And they're supposed to dredge it and that might help. But these properties are right there next to it. And any runoff from it. And I was not opposed to having a C4, but I think they need to have a certain amount of oversight to make sure they're not, well, basically polluting the headwaters of the Magazine and Lake water.
So on the screen here, to the west, this is the 201 properties that we're talking about. And what you're seeing right now is the current land use map. So the current land use for 201 is low residential. For here is the industrial and then commercial. So again, 201 Ember. And then we have the 8253, 8257 B&A right here. And then 8270 Waterford right here.
So you're expanding the commercial, going that direction. And then it is already industrial, is that?
Yeah, so this is but the 201 does not have an industrial land. The 201 has a residential.
I drove around there and everything else right before I covered his autos.
So Eric, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When I took a look at this, I said that maybe this was a good way to go, but then the question was, and I don't want to take everybody through it, but if you start taking a look at those other parcels that are up above the one that is being asked to be rezoned, I think that they're owned by the same person.
You're talking about the industrial property or the commercial property?
All that property right now is zoned R1.
Oh.
So my question was, why didn't they go ahead and ask for some rezoning at that time for those other properties? Because they used, I think, as one of their justifications for turning it into industrial, was that Ember Road goes through an industrial area and you're not supposed to put residential housing in a location where the primary access route is through an industrial area. Did I read that correct?
Who said that? The applicant?
The applicant's letter, I mean, it was fairly
You
comprehensive.
can say all kinds of things in an application.
No, and
There are plenty of places in this county where we have industrial next to residential that is not something that I, as staff, would have looked at and been like, oh, definitely, I agree.
well, that's why I'm asking, but I do believe that there are other parcels in the vicinity of this rezoning request that are owned by the same individual. There are also other properties, I think that those, one residents that are down there in those other areas that want to be rezoned commercial, they said, leave me residential. And they didn't provide any justification for doing that, but other than, I think they want to hold on to their property as residential in that area. The adjoining properties that are in that area are all owned by LLCs. And individual LLCs, not like one LLC, a whole bunch of individuals LLCs. So my question was, and I also think, I can't remember because we looked at so many, that some of these parcels were just bought recently for a fairly substantial amount of money, like $1.5 million is what I think I remember on one. And so my question is somebody out there, a bigger hand, taking a look at this whole area to say what we really want to do is acquire all of this area to do some big project?
We
And then just
wouldn't
have to-
know that. We would not know that, Steve.
And I take a look at that because I say, what is the real reason for trying to change the zoning in this area? And is there again a plan? Because it's a great location. I mean, at the intersection of 100 and 10, right? Yeah.
It's not actually easy to
Yeah, for sure.
get from there.
No, it's not.
Where you're saying.
Well, that's the point. You gotta go all the way down Ember, you gotta go all the way down Water. So, I mean, it's back to infrastructure. You know, what can it handle in that area? So for that reason, I said leave it exactly the way it
You can leave it
is.
as
Leave it as currently the way that it is.
R1 if it's R1 now.
Yes. Or show your hand. I mean, it's that, I just think that, there's,
I understand what you're saying, and I wouldn't like to say, even someone who's been buying up properties, they still have a right to request to do
Sure.
what they would like to do with those properties, okay? But there's still an element in this area that, you know, is there a larger plan so that, and is it environmentally sound? And I've been a member of Magothy River Association for a long time. My parents were in the 1950s, and I have significant concerns about the quality of the river, and it's not what it used to be. So I would hate to see properties here feeding into the headwaters of the river do things that make a real detriment to water.
There already is, I don't know if it's residential because I didn't creep like that, but the, there is a house right before the 201 property. I don't know.
It's on 211.
Yeah, so it's, I'm just throwing that out.
I just look at it.
Rereading it, and it says that OPC recommends W2 for all industrial land use in the area.
That was initially, and we had conversations recently that since that's been pushed out, since we gave that to you.
No, it's just the okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. But the underlying land use that we voted for is industrial. For these parts.
Did we vote on that?
Or was it no consensus?
I believe it was no consensus.
Okay.
Can you show what the percentage was of the vote?
Sure.
And of course, what we were voting on again?
Sure.
Well, I think it's W2 and.
W2 is Ember only one.
What was the request?
Those, yeah.
Yeah, so you,
Right.
I think all of them were some.
To me, the Ember properties is a issue. It's not along B&A Boulevard there. To me. Stuff the two. But for the rest of it, didn't have concerns.
No, it's, I don't. think-
No, the R1 recommendation was changed. I just changed this in the slideshow today. When we sent you guys this, we initially had the recommendation of W2. So, but since then, the recommendation from staff has changed to R1.
I like our one,
For all of it?
No, just those
201.
just for the top two.
Ember Drive parcel.
Yeah, for the Ember Drive,
those the same R one.
correct.
So I will move to accept the recommendation of R1 for 201 and Market 201.
For a second,
Second.
any more discussion, or are we just gonna go to the roll call? Roll call.
Roll call. Let's start with, John's not here and neither is Holly. Walter. Shayla,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Tom.
Yeah.
Kevin. Melissa,
Yes.
Lori. Lauren is not here. Emma,
Yes.
Bo. Amy. Michael. Ann.
Yes.
The ayes have it. Motion passes. So then we can scoot over here. So this is the Pasadena 21, 22, 23, 8253 B&A, 8257 B&A, 8270 Waterford Road.
Our staff recommendation now.
See, it's still, this stayed the same with C4.
And that's for all of them.
Correct.
So my only concern is, like you were saying, that the 8253 is what said it wanted to say residential. Everything around it wanted to go on the application. Which is tricky considering that 8270 right next to it is making a push for commercial.
I'm okay with.
I know, I'm trying to, I'm
Yeah.
trying to look at the map.
Yeah, so 8270 right underneath that 640 there.
They got down that one.
Yep, they're making an argument to expand their home business while 8253 right there next to Baltimore is saying they want to stay residential.
Okay, I see the 8253 now. It's,
Uh-huh.
that's what I was
In
looking
Baltimore,
for,
yeah.
yes.
8253 wants to stay resident.
That's how I read it on the application. It's stay residential, which is, like I said, in 8270.
Just to point out, the application had zero justification. Right, I just wanted to point that out for everybody. 8253. That the requested zoning was R1, but they did not have any justification at all.
8270 was saying they wanted to expand. this.
He said 8257 is the one that requested R1.
Yeah.
57.
They also wanted R1.
So did that?
Did they? This has to protect.
Yeah, they want to stay what they were when they bought the home.
That's like 3 insides.
53, 57, want to stay
Down
residential.
53, where's 57?
Right there where the little compasses, that's
Oh,
currently,
Currently.
yeah.
This is the land use, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep in mind, this is the planned land use.
That's what I was, okay.
No, I was gonna make it my anyway.
Who said that? 'Cause that's where it gets tricky because it's like how you were saying earlier, it's like there's so many, like you said, LLCs running out of all of these, so it's. Do you just make it one blanket But then you have people who want to remain residential within it.
One of the problems for staff is that that is the exact issue. We're
Mhm.
looking at it comprehensively.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not totally opposed to C4 here, but at the same time, C4 gives a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of leeway, and I don't know, I worked for a company that did plating. And when you do plating, you have discharge that is bad stuff. And we had a permit and had to report to the state of Maryland every month on what our discharge looked like. And I can remember once where it didn't come out too well. So, I mean, I just wouldn't want to see something like that right there next to Lake Waterford, but I'm still agreeable to a C4 for this area.
Oh, no,
But-
they are.
Just to say, be aware, the association and certain others will be watching.
Yeah.
For permitted uses for dwellings, it kind of drops off when you get to C4. Like,
Oh,
it's
for
not
dwellings.
conditional, it's not permitted, yeah, dwelling units, multi-town, I'm looking for some.
That we voted on.
You want to see that breakdown again?
But what kind of commercial industrial can you run an industrial operation there?
Exceed 1,500
Or
square
if
feet.
your heaviest commercial zone,
Yeah.
And it's
which is
not,
not industrial.
okay. So not to exceed 1,500 square feet of floor area for your caretaker resident manager. Is that a ancillary use? I mean, it really drops off.
I mean, we call them auxiliary uses.
So,
Other counties I've worked in, they call them something else, but here it's auxiliary.
Something else. Yeah.
Accessory,
Accessory
Accessory is
versus.
a- but every
like
county
connected
does it
with the
slightly
business.
differently.
like with the maritime, it's got to be connected with the operation, whatever that term is.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's pretty, it dropped, drawings kind of drop off.
Move that we accept staff's recommendation of C4.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I can do a roll call.
Sure.
Ann,
So we're saying that the person who wanted R1, we're gonna go C4?
correct.
No.
Michael. Amy. Oh. Emma.
No.
Lauren is not here. Lori.
Aye.
Melissa. Kevin. Tom. Steve.
Aye.
Shayla. Walter. Holly is not here and neither is John. There are 3 no's, 2 abstains. I gotta do math. 1 second. Sorry about that.
I need that too.
Math is a beautiful.
There's 9, sorry, there's 8. There's 7 yeses. So I don't think,
We don't have everybody.
yeah, so 7 out of 10, 70%, which means the motion passes. Because they abstains. So the motion passes C4 for those 3 properties. Okay, moving on. We have SVP Savanna Park 8. Yeah. So the last one from this bunch, there was one more, and then one more from last meeting, and then anything else you guys would like to discuss.
Good.
So,
Considering how long we've been going.
okay, so, again, Severna Park 8, which is 849 B&A Boulevard and 45 Smith Road. The applicant requested SB for both. OPZ's recommendation is R5, and you can see the breakdown on the screen. It was almost 50-50 split.
Okay, that's a.
This is where the restaurant is, right? Okay, I think the existing use of the restaurant on these two parcels, and it's been that for, I think, 25+ years. SB zoning is not gonna be anything more intense than what is currently there. I just don't see why we would not recognize. Yeah. It was the French restaurant. Yeah.
Maybe I just don't under. Are there advantages to being SB versus not being SB that would help or hinder the business? Because I kind of agree, it's like they've been there forever.
With financing.
It'll be a non-conforming, maybe not conforming, I don't know if it's true or not, but SB, I agree, makes sense here, given the use. It's not a lot to discuss the fact that you could do an SB, so it's not really a high intensity commercial zoning. It's just like somewhat of a residential house as.
Yeah, I would agree to make an SB.
I'm in favor of it, I just didn't know if I was in business.
So you wanted R5, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That was OPZ's recommendation.
Is there any particular reason it shows that? Given the use of the land for the last 25 years? Or is it just because it's surrounded? by R5?
I mean, the area is surrounded by residential. I think that had a lot of factor into it. So I can pull up our justification if you like, but
Just remember that many non-conforming uses have been non-conforming for decades because during comprehensive zoning, and this is in many counties, they don't choose to change them. They don't choose to make them conforming. That doesn't mean that at some point you shouldn't make to conform. And SB is very much a transitional zone, bridging the gap between residential and commercial. So it's middle ground, in my professional opinion.
Any further discussion? Okay.
yeah. I haven't heard a motion. Motion second, any discussion? A roll call vote?
Hang on. Just give me a second.
No worries.
Who seconded it?
Michael.
Michael. Okay, I'm ready. Who are we starting with?
So we'll start, John and Holly are not here, so Walter,
Yes.
Fela,
Yes.
Eve,
Yes.
Tom, Kevin,
Yes.
Melissa, Lori, Lauren. Lauren's not here. Emma? Bo? Amy? Michael? And Ann?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the last one we have to discuss is just south.
Lost me.
I was gonna ring a bell.
Look at the spelling in here. This is horrific.
That's fine, I'll clean it up, it's okay. So the last one we have to discuss is SVP 10. This was last week's, or on Wednesday, discussion, excuse me. Just a quick refresher. The adopted zoning is currently R5. The applicant is requesting C1. And it's that property with the X, just for a refresher. So, I knew there was some discussion last week about maybe looking at the whole triangle, the whole area. So I don't know if there's any new information you guys want to share or any thoughts you guys want to share with one another.
I think we should look at the whole area, meaning the staff or someone else before you go to, this one you did R22, Kevin?
I think because the question was, do you make it all commercial? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I remember we got stuck in R15 versus R6. This is that space next to the park and ride.
Oh.
Yep, that corner.
Yeah, and the parking ride is that gray. Yeah.
Yeah, two motions on it, one way and one another, but failed.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You go, what, C1 one way?
what was the recommendation by planning and zoning?
I don't think we provided one with this one either. No, we did not provide one.
Okay.
You remember, Eric? The two
Um,
motions?
I can,
It was R15 and
1 second, I can,
Into, motor bicycle rental. We do have the substantial, we have that substantial crossing. Yes. And I don't know which way that's gonna push it, but sometimes I think, hey, it'd be a great place for a little bit higher density residential, or hey, it might be, a way to give a way to cross the highway. And take advantage, we have the farmer's market there all the time.
the families I see cross on their bikes at that intersection make me so nervous, but I love that they do it to get to the farmer's market. That see small kids on speeders. Oh, I'm like, don't get this. It's like- Yeah, small kids make me nervous.
those look like one motion was R15. I can't.
Because I looked at that as well, these are 15, the people will be there on that side of the road.
Depends how big it is.
Yeah.
You know, those two things can look bigger than,
Mhm.
it's a fairly small kind of area.
Creative, yeah.
And as I said, last week, some of the residential rehabilitation that's occurred there is
It's very good. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. A
And
place
they're
where you can do
smaller.
redevelopment.
It's gonna be,
Which we want to see
houses
more.
that,
But I was gonna say, but
Affordable.
could afford, yeah.
But I was gonna say, but on top of that, I feel like the thing to consider when we're talking about R15 is I feel like this also helps with not too far up the street. When they're talking about the possibility of Anne Arundel Community College being able to offer housing for students in the area. And there's a way, because I've seen it done, you can have multi-use or multi apartments, basically homes that look like houses in the community. It doesn't always have to look like a big box apartment complex building. You see a lot of them where it looks like just a big house, but it's actually an apartment.
It just seems like there are a lot of families that I think have been there a long time. I've been there about 45 years and I think they've been there probably longer than I have. So, just if you come in and do a big something or other, it's going to change it completely for them anyway.
What's the total acreage of that? It's there.
The whole triangle?
Yeah, that's
What's
the.
the-
Well, the
Yeah,
park and
lots of
ride
them.
is owned by the state.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. I'm not as fast as Jesse. I apologize, everybody.
3.4.
See, you can't do much in 3.2 acres. R15. See, it's very small.
That's a question. Like it has to do, because last time we talked about this, I brought up, like, there were other areas in this area I would look at for upzoning. There was some other applications we had in a different area along White's Road. How did we vote on? Small.
Yeah, you can't really do.
All right, we
15.
don't have to look up. No, I don't think you should do ARPA. I just don't remember how I looked at it. OPC.
For this property,
No, 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 no.
For
White's
Road. White's Road.
Yeah, I kind of want.
Kevin, you were asking about what? White's Road?
Yeah, what we did on those applications.
You know what application it was?
I saw it at the last
We
one.
just vote on it.
It might have been a consensus.
It probably was.
Yeah, okay. Don't worry about it. I think my comment.
White's Road, 14 White's Road was consensus R2.
Was our 10 something ever proposed for 965?
No, they wanted what, C1 or C3?
C1.
C1.
I mean, just from one of us, was our 10 something that was? suggested?
965 one C1, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, operate currently with the business on site.
Yeah, it was
The elevator, how the elevator.
Well, does anybody have a motion? Your motion though, that anybody wants to make?
I'll make a motion to rezone it C1, 965. Baltimore.
Just that.
Mhm.
Second,
There's a motion for C1 and a second, just for 965. Any discussion? Roll call.
I'm ready now.
John and Holly are not here. Walter? Shayla? Steve? Tom? Kevin? Melissa? Lori? What was that? Yes. Lauren's not here. Emma?
Abstain.
Bo? Amy? Michael? Ann?
no,
4, 5 no's, 2 abstain. Motion does not pass.
This is gonna have to go with it.
Yeah.
Again, as a reminder, you guys don't have to provide a recommendation. There can be no consensus. We are recording this conversation.
And we stopped talking
Have we
about.
come to consensus idea on-
well, all those orange ones.
No, I mean on this. No, I mean.
No, we haven't.
So I heard there was a motion for,
Motion, we want to provide a recommendation. On that.
I will say.
so a motion and a second of not providing of a recommendation for not providing a recommendation. I'm sorry.
It's over 3. What's the bet?
Who seconded that?
Steve.
Any discussion?
Start with Walter again.
Walter? Shayla?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Tom?
Yeah.
Kevin? Melissa? Lori? Lauren's not here. Emma?
Abstain.
Ebo?
Yes.
Amy? Michael? Ann?
Yes.
And Holly and John are not here. Motion passes. Okay, so that is all. At this point, that is all the recommendations, or that is all the applications you guys have reviewed. Is there any application or area you want to visit? Because everything's been discussed. Every application has been discussed by the SAC. There's been a vote on every property, every application. If there's nothing else that you guys wish to discuss, the meeting could be over, but if you, there's an opportunity for you all to talk.
It's going to be that person.
All right, there wasn't one other.
No, that was the last one.
last week. Somehow I missed.
A break. Oh, Liv, how about a break?
Yeah,
first?
absolutely. Yeah,
I think we're gonna take a break. Take a break.
Bo.
Oh.
That's the eBay.
It's like, who's eBay?
She's like, what? eBay over here.
That's 'cause I screwed it up. I will never have this job again.
I was gonna say, before you said anything, I was gonna motion, could we discuss the two that were presented?
when I was head of management team, I took it and put it in the middle of the table.
I've negotiated a few and traded a couple properties here and there. I just-
We didn't need it.
All right, back to the discussion for the SAC. So I know, so in order to discuss a property that's already been discussed, someone needs to bring up whatever they want to discuss and have a quick motion for the whole group to agree to bring it back up, just to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
Okay,
So if you want to bring up,
Sure. 129 Ritchie Highway is the parcel that's right out almost in front, just to the north of the Harris Teeter Shopping Center.
Okay.
So what we saw earlier tonight that has the old dilapidated house. At one of the meetings last week, I had pretty strongly opposed that. And I did that more on principle than anything else. Can't help it. It's just, it's just the way I am. But we voted apparently for R22, which I don't remember. And I don't think that makes sense. So I think
No,
we
I
should
don't think
discuss
so.
that. And I would be in favor of making the zoning consistent with the Harris Teeter Shopping Center.
so you need to make a motion to revisit this. Before.
I move that we revisit that property.
Is there a second? Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm not seconding, and I discussed it, well, I guess.
We're
Wait,
discussing that.
well, wait, did we get a second?
Yeah.
The motion is second. Now we're in discussion of the motion.
Lori.
Who's second? I think. it's-
Kevin.
Lori. Ken down there. Lori.
Okay, now discussion.
No, you just, you have discussion on a motion.
Want to reopen it? That's the question.
On the motion, right, you can discuss what you want to discuss.
What's the motion exactly? Discuss it?
Yeah, just make sure the group as a whole is okay with discussing. See, so there's a motion and a second to reopen the conversation on 129 Ritchie Highway.
And that's what we voted to do.
Yes, so we can do it all, we can do an all in favor, like, if you want.
Reopen to me means you're gonna re-vote on it. I just need to clarify that.
Well, I thought we were,
What I would
like to
like to do.
So it nullifies the previous vote that we,
Okay, so we're saying we need another.
no, I'm asking what this motion will do. If we vote to reopen the conversation, does that mean we are also voting to cancel the previous
I
vote?
wouldn't think so. Why would it, if you just open it?
Which would be, the previous vote, it combined multiple lots into one zoning, so are we doing spot zoning
I think we're just.
discussion on just that one lot? Or are you asking us to reopen the decision on the entire set of parcels that we made a decision on?
Be happy with all the properties north of 129 Ritchie. I think that's only 129 Ritchie. But I'm looking.
We're just
So
talking about
just one
129.
twenty-nine, Rich.
Right.
Okay.
129, 119.
129, yeah, 119 is the structure.
Okay,
Where does that leave the ones that are we still doing R22?
That would be, they would be.
But how much land is there, folks?
I think there's like 10 acres.
10 acres there?
Yeah, I think so.
After discuss it.
Those lots that we included. And probably have to look at.
The way these maps are, that it's hard to tell. Sometimes it looks like a lot of land and sometimes it looks like a lot and it's not.
How many lots did we put in there? Was it 4 or 5?
That's what I'm checking right now.
I think it's 115.
I think that sounds right.
And it's a month.
One 129 to 91. Those properties. Yeah,
4 properties.
so 91. You see, 91, 97, 101, 111, 115, and then 19, and then 129.
I just don't remember why we wanted to go to those other 4. Because we had
There was
the,
another one.
101 one in has an SV and was requesting something else. One of the other ones that was one over from it had a different request. And then this had its own request to go to C3, so the logic was presented that we spot rezone the entire parcels that included that area. Because if I remember correctly, if you had R22, we were looking for places that you could put high density residential along a major highway where there would be transit available to somebody, but also potentially walking to shopping centers and other amenities. And there's bike paths nearby that you can use. You cross over the highway, after designated crosswalks. All those things were the reasons of favor.
No one asked for R22. And
No one asked for it, but that's what the group decided, and that's an overwhelming vote. If you go back and look at the number.
It was 10 to
like
2.
10-2.
I would
That's my
just
recommendation.
like to recognize the fact that this will now be the third time we've talked about this particular property. It's disproportionate to everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
It's a tough, wait a minute. It's a tough nut, without a doubt, and that's why we've had so much discussion, and then we had additional discussion from the audience tonight. I would just ask, as perhaps an amendment to the motion, that actually hasn't.
No, there's been no
Yeah,
motion.
there's been no motion.
Only to take a vote.
If we're gonna reopen this and potentially take a vote, that we limit discussion to no more than 10 minutes. Because we've had all the arguments and everything else so far. It's gotta be something compelling that, makes it succinct. Leads us to a vote.
So this motion is specific to lot 129 or address 129 only, and we limited to 10 minutes. That is what you're asking on the motion.
is there a second?
So there's already been a
This is word
second.
discussion.
This is amendment.
Okay. Oh, you're amending.
What does that do to the original motion now? If we're pulling,
wrong.
we're pulling this one out.
Can we
Crazy.
amend the motion to be a 10-minute only discussion for 129 Ritchie Highway? And if we cannot come to a consensus vote, we revert to the vote we took last week.
Well, I wanted to make a comment.
I mean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, are you seconding something because we already in it?
Yeah, no, I'm
You're
I'm
amending,
recommending
so-
an amendment. I'm trying to clarify or to take in everyone's concerns.
So the way I understood it is the reason it was talking about reopening was because of public comment, not because we didn't understand what had happened before, because I totally understood what happened before. But now that there's been public comment, I do want to revote. So is that
You
why?
got that opportunity.
No, I know, but I'm saying, I think Steve was saying, why don't we remember this? Like we talked about it 3-4 times. I'm saying I totally do. But because the public comment, that was my
So Kevin made an amendment to your motion. Do you accept his amendment? Is if you guys cannot come to a consensus, it reverts back to being.
In 10 minutes, that's fine with me.
We can do it all in favor if you want.
Yeah, I guess we can. Okay, does everybody understand the motion as amended? Okay. Somebody better keep time.
I'll put a timer once the vote occurs. I'll start timer.
So all in favor of the motion as presented as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, we have to do a roll call. Yeah, okay. So roll call vote. Ann,
Abstain.
Michael.
Okay.
Amy. Bo. Emma. You're voting to bring this up for discussion for 10 minutes.
Just the one,
Just the one
parcel.
Laura's not here. Lori. Melissa. Kevin. Tom.
Yeah.
Steve.
No.
Shayla. Walter. Holly and John are not here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no's, 1 abstain. Motion does not pass.
Does that mean we're not gonna be voted again, so we keep it what we voted last time?
Correct.
Am I understanding that? Okay, just check.
And do you really think it makes sense what we voted last time? I'm just curious, because we don't have any clue how much property.
Another motion to spot zone that one spot and name of thing. and call it a day.
It's not spot zoning,
No,
we're in
it's not spot zoning.
comprehensive.
This is part of comprehensive rezoning.
Okay, but if you're just gonna call one location out, well, just, it's one spot.
Make a motion that we. Make a motion to end the meeting.
Well, if there's nothing else to be said, I just think it's strange that that's my personal opinion, that you have R22 when you don't know how big it is. And it's in
So we can,
11.
we voted not to discuss it.
Well, no, I mean,
We're tabling this discussion.
I'll talk to you later.
There we go.
Sheila made one.
I have a motion to reopen the discussion on Hog Neck Road.
I second the motion.
Which minus the show.
Hog Neck Road was the
That's
one.
gentlemen were here.
Yes.
Yes. And that was, that, just for information purposes, the Hog Neck Road property had a consensus today. This is an application presented to you all, for this meeting, and you guys had a consensus on that. And you guys voted on that at the beginning of this meeting.
And this was.
Walter heard it. I think Walter knows. Yeah, at the same time.
So there's a motion and a second, any discussion on opening up the Hog Neck Road properties for discussion?
So I'll start off. So I didn't agree
Was
with
there
your
a second?
recommendation.
Yeah, Amy seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Sorry.
I don't think we did.
You gonna make the roll
Well, no,
call?
we just-
Aaron?
We're in discussion of the motion.
I think we should, this was, if I recall correctly, it was close. This is a commercializing strip. I think that we should. This really illustrates what we're talking about. Because it's, what do you do with a piece of property that really is going to be a very difficult residential use in a commercializing strip? I think we should discuss it.
Are we talking about all four properties or just one?
Yes, yeah,
So all,
they are all four together.
to me, they're different.
Well, they're all,
Yeah, they're different enough though in character that.
But if you reopen all of them, then you could vote on them individually.
Okay.
So
We
we're
had a
on,
motion, right?
There's a motion second. If there's no more discussion, we can vote on the motion to discuss the Hog Neck properties. Okay, I'll do the roll call, yeah. John and Holly are still not here. Walter? Bayla?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah.
Kevin?
No.
Melissa? Lori? Lauren's still not here. Emma?
Yes.
Bo? Amy? Michael? Ann?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So the reason I wanted to kind of revisit this one is especially, like I said, hearing their presentation today just kind of helped me understand better what I'm looking at. I am gonna be honest, I'm not familiar with this road. I don't drive there much. But seeing it laid out, hearing it explained to me what the intent and the plan is, gives me a better understanding of how the land plan to be used, which is why I am actually more apt to go with the C4 that they had requested. And then. Walter.
Yep, all right, so. All right, so I think. So the recommendation from OPZ was R5 on this.
Correct. And R2 for 8147.
I think that by doing that, we're creating a situation where these properties are going to languish for another several decades. Maybe not several decades, a couple decades. This is a commercializing strip, very intense right across the street. And if we, I think it should seriously be considered to put some sort of, maybe not quite a C4 intensity, but a lower intensity commercial or a higher density residential in here, because this is going to be a very difficult strip of property. Good tax generating economic use.
Can you have a storage facility for vehicles and tow yards in a non-C4? My understanding is no.
Bonnie,
Yes.
C3 is not eligible for a tow yard on the Broadhead Peninsula, only C4. Only tow company for the Broadhead is 10, 12 miles down. Well, he wants to do storage of RVs and boats and, you know, that's C4. So that's the only way it can be. It can't be less. I just want to bring that up because if you're asking to make it commercial, but recognize what they're looking to do based on their conversation, you can't go less than C4.
So I will move that we rezone the parcels we're discussing to C4.
There's a motion and a second to,
You're saying all properties,
Yeah,
all 4 of them.
yeah, because 3 on that one side and the 8147, I mean,
So the 8147.
8143 and 8145, those are our 2. Right.
who seconded the motion? Lori?
You're saying for all 4.
I'm saying all 4. I'd be open to an amendment if you want to take out 8147. So that's
If we get amended, take 8147 out.
everybody said that. Take out 8147 and just do 3 on that side.
Out 8147. I
can
hear
you,
you.
where is
do
8146?
Really? Not allowed to use it for the storage. That's where he wants the storage.
Yeah, I know, but right
And then-
across the street from that is I think that.
Steve has his hand up.
Okay, Steve,
Yeah.
one at a time, folks. One at a-
Glad that we got the public input here today. I haven't actually gone out to the property, but I've looked at it from the satellite views and what we get off of Google Street. The question I have is if you take a look at those properties there right now, did they evolve in a way that was permissible by the county? I mean, you've got on one side, the ice cream shop, and then you've got a metal building in the back that's got, I think, a couple of small businesses. Pardon?
I don't think the ice cream.
It's not there. Yeah, like I said, I
No,
don't
it's
know
not.
Google Street. So you've got a mixture of things that have occurred on that one lot. The other lot's a tavern restaurant. And then finally, you've got that other lot, which also appears to be like an auto salvage lot, yard or a repair facility and some other business that's graphics or painting place. But there's a whole conglomeration of different businesses on those lots. The first question I've got, I'm more for keeping it commercial right now. How did it get that way? Is it legally, is it operating in a legal way right now?
Is there, you mean like, is there an existing conforming use?
Are we just giving a stamp to approving an existing conglomeration of businesses that really maybe should not be on that property? I don't know the answer. But it just really looks like just a whole mismatch of things on.
What is the difference of a non-conforming use that they apply to officially be non-conforming use versus they're just non-conforming use and they don't apply for that? That's the thing I don't understand.
The difference would be if they haven't applied and been registered as a non-conforming use, it's not a legal use. There's no automatic, the only non-conforming use that you don't have to register is one single family dwelling, commercial and industrial district. The rest of them, if they have not applied, it's not registered, it's not a legal use.
And is the onus on them to tell us if they applied for that in their application?
It's one of the questions we asked in the application.
Can you order those? I don't- Whether they actually, were there any of those? I drive this on a regular basis and I can see it going either way. I don't see individual homes, closer down to Fort Smallwood end. There is one bank of townhouses. And then on towards the north end, on the west, you have, back in a community that's behind the Lakeshore area, single family homes, and on the right, you have back into a townhouse community. The pool is for the townhouse community. It's not for any of the houses on that main street. That's a private pool. So, I mean, if we put housing in there, I don't see anything but apartments or condos or something like 55 and over community. I mean, I don't think we can specify that specifically, but I don't see individual homes. I agree with what Walter was saying, is if you don't put some more density housing in there, fill that in. There's transmission lines down the street. I don't want anybody, I wouldn't live under transmission lines, but just, I could see this going either way.
So our application states that the question is this a certified non-conforming use? The answer is no.
Right, and I believe, just from years of being around the area and from looking at Google Maps, that after that pretty much one row of some commercial properties right on the main road there, on Hogneck, that if you go back behind that, you have large residential communities.
Yes, behind it.
Right, after the first row. Yeah.
After the first one.
After the first row of
Row. Okay,
commercial properties along Hogneck Road.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I don't know, it, honestly, for me, the complexion of Hogneck Road today isn't that different than it was 20 or 25 years ago. And, but what we're talking about doing would change that in some small part if we're putting a storage lot for vehicles, RVs, boats. Sort of thing. And considering the fact that there's townhouses right behind it, there's what looks like a community pool right across from it. You know, I have some problems with that. Whereas where we had already, apparently the recommendation from staff was R5.
My thinking on this was concentrating commercial into a space and then also allowing, like you said, it's turning into a space that's going to be needed essentially anyway. And again, if we're talking about townhouse community residences and things like that, where do they store those things? And oftentimes when I drive through communities like that, they're on the street or they're taking up the road. So where do those things go?
That's a
if we want
huge-
people to have access to those things.
That's huge. You're correct. Because that's one of the big complaints is you're not supposed to park it on the street and then where you
Can't put it in your
park
yard.
Yeah, but
So I'm looking at accommodating a community and providing a space to do that. That doesn't push it further down somewhere else, where like I said, then we start opening up more commercial pockets instead of just concentrating it to a certain space. And it's not unheard of to have larger homes behind commercial.
and I'll be honest, the one big one with giant palm trees in front of it, I always thought that was some, not knowing until this, that it was what this, I always thought it was like an assisted living or something, facility like that.
So sorry, so my motion is to go with.
Well, we already have a motion. The motion on the table is, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, C4 for everything except for 8147. And it's been seconded by Lori.
For the event. Okay. That was-
Yeah. So
I'd be down for that, except to also, well, I would say also not include 8146, just because there's that creek on the same thing, but that might not give them enough room for what they're wanting to accomplish anyway. But my feeling would be to do Bo's motion, but without 8146.
Sorry, which one is that? The one on the corner?
Yeah,
The one
it's
with
the
the
funky one that goes up,
Okay, so it's not the one on the film.
it is the one with.
Yeah, that's like an HOA.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really
It's
in
actually,
play.
it's owned by the same group as the one.
That has a front and a back portion. to it.
Yeah.
The back portion is
8.46.
right along those townhouses.
I'm more concerned about the creek that's there.
That doesn't really. Well, okay, thank you.
you want to do that?
That was
Mhm.
just-
You want to do that, or you want to say?
I'd be curious.
The same company owns 8144.
Which is what they were hoping, that's where they plan on putting the storage, is on the property line, whole corner area. So that 40, 44, 46 is where they're talking about putting.
Is that Chesterfield Homeowners Association? Did they?
The LTC Enterprises owns, right, 146. Right here. Okay, again, so the motion with the amended motion on the table is C4 for all of the properties except for 8147. And it's been seconded. Any other discussion? Start with Ann.
I'll abstain because I might come back to it. Can I just ask one?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Why are we excluding 8147? That's what I don't know.
It's across the
Across the street,
street.
not
It's
contiguous.
Yeah.
There's properties in between it that wouldn't be rezoned.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll change my vote to, I vote for this, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ann voted yay.
Yeah.
Michael. Amy.
Yes.
Bo. Emma.
Nay.
Lauren's not here. Lori. Melissa. Kevin. Tom.
Aye.
Steve.
Yeah.
Shayla.
Yes.
Walter. And then make sure Holly and John's not here. They're not. So the 1, 2, 3, 9, 12, motion passes.
Is that it now, folks?
Oh, no, are we doing what's with 8147? So if there's no motion for 8147, it will stay R2 based on the previous.
That's reasonable.
Okay. So do we have any other business?
I heard a motion to,
Adjourn.
Yeah.
Vote on that.
oh, no, there's not.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Everybody in favor of adjourning, say yes or yea. Everybody opposed? We'll get under the table. And
The next meeting is tentative for July 10th. And a tentative location is Broadneck Library. I'll send more information in the coming days. And then after July's meeting, the last and final meeting you guys get to see me is in September. And again, more information will be sent for that as well. So
when will we hear the?
you can see me anytime you want.
When will we hear the information comes back about, you know, the plans that we're submitting, I mean, our plan, it's out for another.
It's gonna go out in July.
So